self-prescribed neocon. I'm
Hmm.
America First, and we are going to be talking about first the Iran war. So, what are we doing in Iran, Tech Boy? What is the end game, and why are we there in the first place?
Right. So it's a complex issue in Iran. We have multiple reasons to beat it. We don't want them to get a nuclear weapon. They were, hinting at wanting to get it. That's what they want to do. They want to destroy America. It's part of their radical Islamic theology. But also, there's other geopolitical reasons as well. We have China uses Iran's oil for because they need oil. And obviously, China is a much bigger, much more powerful geopolitical enemy of the United States of America. And we don't want them having a supply of oil. We don't want them having any allies. We want to be able to isolate China from the rest of the world and from the United States of America.
Okay. First of all, by the way, I know you're worried about people not siding with you in this. My grandparents are on your side 100%. They told me before this. But to
Right?
get to the to get to the China thing, it's very interesting because Iran didn't have to be an ally of China and Russia if we didn't make it that way. We made Iran an enemy of ourselves in 1953 when we did the coup and installed the Shah, who the people absolutely hated. So it's if Iran is an enemy of the U.S., it's kind of the U.S.'s fault. And and we're just further pushing them into the arms of China and Russia by doing this.
Wait, you think that we're pushing them into the arms of China and Russia by? I guess my question would be: do you think it's possible to make, let's say, before the war happened, do you think be possible to make them an ally of the United States?
No, but we don't need to be an enemy. We don't, and plus with the nuclear weapon,
Hmm.
uh, like that was the first thing you brought up. There's
Hmm.
no direct threat to the United States if they have a nuclear weapon because they've never issued a direct threat to the United States. So
What do you think death to America means?
that's beer talk. China did the same thing, and so did the Soviet Union. So
Well,
when the Soviet Union in 1956 said
mhm.
we're going to wipe the United States off the face of the earth, did we go over there and try and prevent them from getting a nuke? Well, they already had one. We didn't
Well,
prevent
yeah.
them from getting a nuke in the first place, and when they said that, we didn't go to war with them.
Well, we tried to prevent them from getting a nuke, but then they
Yeah, but
stole it.
we didn't bomb them. We didn't start a
Oh,
war.
well, yeah. I mean, once they have that, that's exactly my point. Once these countries have nukes, like Pakistan and China, North Korea, and all these other countries that have nukes, we can't really do much to them because they could nuke us if we push them back. Which is why the Cold War happened when we have the Soviets. But there's tons of conflicts amongst us and their proxies and our proxies and the other proxies throughout the entire Cold War. But it would have been much more preferable to the United States if the Soviets had never been able to get a nuke. But we had to defeat them in of the means as well, not just militarily, but economic.
I
We were
think the I think the question was if we didn't even start a war with them before they got a nuke in
yeah.
1949, and neither did we with China in 1964, which was in the middle of the Cold War.
Mhm.
So, do you think that we should have started a war with Russia and China in 49 and 64? Because by your logic, we should have.
For Russia, maybe not, only because we were just coming out of World War II. It had ended just 4 years ago. And we probably won't have to go and deploy and start maybe a new World War again. So maybe not for Russia, maybe with China. Uh,
Maybe with China.
Maybe with China in a vacuum. But of course,
I
because,
mean, don't you think that would have started a
well, I'm saying,
awful.
of course, because in a vacuum, yeah, but of course, because they were allied with the Soviets would have nuked us. So uh, that's just the problem with nuclear weapons. It makes it harder for the United States to be able to do things.
Do you think Iran would use their nuclear weapon if they had it?
Uh, yes.
Why? There's absolutely zero interest for them to have a nuclear weapon, use a nuclear weapon. They would get decimated in a day.
Well, exactly, but I mean that's the problem with the fundamentalist Islam theology, which is they don't care about stuff like that, right? They have suicide bombers, they fly planes through buildings, they commit terrorist attacks that affect them like personally, like
Well,
affect their quality of life.
but if Iran didn't care, then they would send ground troops into Israel. If they didn't care about the stakes of their own country, they would
Mhm.
do that tomorrow. They obviously care about protecting their homeland.
I I don't think they do.
They do. Why haven't they sent ground troops into Israel
I mean,
if it's just a suicide mission?
they don't really have that much of a military, but they do send.
They did before they don't have a big military, but they have if you're saying they don't care about their numbers,
Mhm.
then they would go in there immediately.
I mean, I guess you'd have to ask them and their leaders who are all dead. But I mean, it's not like they haven't attacked Israel multiple times. They attacked them with missiles and drones and the like.
Yeah, but your argument is that they would use it. Is it you think they use it on the U.S. and Israel, or just
Do you
Israel?
think
Or
they? Do you think? Do I think that Iran would use a nuke on the U.S. if they got one?
yeah, that's what I'm asking.
I do think they would, or at least they try.
And do you think they'd use it on Israel?
I also think they would, and I also think that they try. I think that they make at least two, one for us and one for them.
I'm asking you, why would they use it if it means the decimation of their country? They've never made a strike that would mean the decimation of their country. They're always careful enough to back down. We saw this in 2020
Well,
after the killing of Soleimani.
I wouldn't say that they're careful. I mean, I think that if they didn't want to get bombed by the United States of America, they'd disband their military and promise not to have a nuclear weapon and not have a crazy government in place. I don't think that they're being run by, sane people.
Yeah, you're saying they're not a rational actor. Is that what you're
Yeah,
arguing?
I don't think they're rational.
Okay, but they haven't. What I'm saying is that they've protected themselves and that they haven't sent ground troops into Israel,
Mhm.
which would be a move if all they cared about was decimating Israel and they didn't care about their
Mhm.
homeland. Why wouldn't they do that?
I think they have a better chance of decimating Israel via the air than they do via sending in ground troops. Like they have,
Okay, it's through ballistic missiles, it's assaults and whatnot.
yeah, I think that it, they have just a much better chance of doing that because Israel will just cut down the military and then, like, I mean, Iran wants to win. They're just not rational. I just don't think that they.
So,
I
so
think
you
that
think, yeah, this is crazy. You think that they would risk being finished off in one afternoon,
no, I'm
all
saying
their
I
people
think that.
dead, just to nuke the United States and Israel?
Do I think that if they had a nuclear weapon and they had a hypersonic missile that could hit the United States, I do think that they would use that or try to use it as a leverage over the United States.
At the threat of all their own people, that they would
Well, I
use
mean,
it on the United States. All
well,
their people would be gone.
they murdered their own people, so it's not like they care.
Well, they murder the people that break Islamic law. They love their country. They want a strongly majority Muslim religious fundamentalist country, and a lot of the people do as well. They kill their political opponents like a lot of countries do.
Well, the protesters, I don't think they wanted a radical Muslim country, thousands and thousands of people.
Well, yeah, I mean, but the majority of the people are pro
You think
theocratic regimes. We've seen that again and again when they hold elections in the Middle East.
the
But here's the
the
thing.
elections
So
in
I
general,
guess I get what you're saying. Yeah, I guess what you're saying is that Iran would somehow use a nuclear weapon on the United States, even though it means that all the people in their country are wiped out, just so they can hurt the United States. That's a very interesting talking point, I have to say.
I do believe that, and I also think that another way is that they would use it to as leverage over us, because like let's say they have
They
their nuke.
don't have leverage though; they would get killed anyway.
I mean, yeah,
Anyway,
but I mean, let's say that one nuke hits the United States, it's still thousands to millions of people dead, depending on the type of nuke that they have. The US, yes, we're a much more powerful country, but we actually like our citizens. We don't want them dying like that. So we might not like negotiate on the best terms that we have.
explain that again. Sorry, I
Oh,
didn't
sorry.
understand.
Okay. So let's say that Iran has a nuclear weapon and a hypersonic missile that can hit New York City and it can take out, say, 1 million people, right? And the United States has thousands of nukes and could take out all of Iran with one button. Well, let's say that the president is negotiating with Iran and Iran saying, look, if you don't do thus and so, and don't let us have the Strait of Hormuz, and don't give us this oil, and don't give us this money, then we are going to nuke New York City. And that
Oh, finish your thought. Finish your thought.
right. And that's going to be 1 million people dead. And yeah, sure, we could wipe them out 90-1, but we don't want to have a nuclear attack on our nation's largest city, and 1 million people dead. So, because we actually like our citizens, we might actually try to negotiate with them on terms that would be not as good for the United States.
If that ever happened, we would nuke them right away. If they even
Oh
threaten
yeah, but
us
we don't
again.
want to have to sacrifice 1 million Americans for better terms.
What do you mean sacrifice 1 million Americans? We could preemptively nuke them.
Well, yeah, but they could also preemptively nuke us as well. Like, just the nukes from the United States would take some time to get over there, so they'd have time to launch their nukes and hit. And even if Iran's not enough a country anymore, that nuke's still going to be in the sky, and you might have a small chance of shooting it down, but we don't know about that.
They wouldn't know that we launched the nuke, though. It's not like we're going to tell them that.
You can see that on satellite and radar, and like,
True, but what I'm saying is that technically we could decimate them before they had the chance
I
to
mean,
touch us.
yeah, like
And
those hits. But I mean, I think that in the scenario where they have a nuke, which they don't have one right now, but in the scenario where they have one, that could already be in the sky.
so wait, I thought we were talking about a hypothetical scenario where
Mhm,
they have a nuke and they say we're going to nuke the United States if
mhm,
you don't come to terms on this.
right,
And what I'm saying is that that would never happen because the US can finish them in the snap of a finger.
right, and that would work on rational countries. If Iran was run by the Chinese government, then yeah, that would work on them because they want to live. But they don't care. I mean, it's in the Quran where they say that if you die fighting a holy war, then you get an automatic bid into heaven. In Islamic theology, they don't know if they're going to go to heaven or not unless they die fighting for Allah. So they
That's
would.
not their record, though. They haven't made crazy decisions like that. Every time that they've had a chance to back out of a conflict, they have. I'm just telling you. And
I'm saying,
I haven't
with
even gotten into the fact that they were part of the Iran nuclear deal where they were literally letting inspectors go in. They said,
the,
we are not building a nuke. Come look at this."
the JCPOA,
Yeah.
that one, that was a terrible deal.
No, the Joint Comprehensive Plan of Action. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah,
That
from
was
from
a great deal. What do you mean? They weren't building a nuke. We had inspectors go in
they
there.
they still were allowed to have enriched uranium for nuclear power plants. When do they need nuclear
Yeah,
power
but
plants?
weren't allowed to have it enough to enrich it for a nuclear
I
weapon.
mean, it was like at
They
about
had inspectors come in.
it
The
was like
reason
at
Trump
about
pulled us out of it was because of they were still doing proxy terrorism around Israel.
it was about like 60 something percent, which they still had the technology to spin it up to what you need is about like 95%. I mean, I don't think that they should be allowed to have any sort of uranium at all.
But look, we had a deal where there were inspectors coming in
It
and
wasn't a,
looking at their. Yes, we did. They
I'm
were
saying we did
inspect
have one. I'm just saying it's not a good deal.
and now we don't have any of that. So you can say it's a flawed deal, but you can't say that it's better than the situation. You have to say it's better than the situation we have now because this would not have happened if we had that deal. They actually came to the negotiating table. They were rational. They had people inspecting them, making sure that they weren't. They were using nuclear enrichment, or I should say uranium enrichment,
Mhm,
not to build a nuclear weapon, but as a leveraging tool.
mhm.
They weren't. That deal proves that because they had people checking them on it.
Yeah, but they were still secretly building sites that we bombed back in almost last year, like in, what was it, July? So they still have the intent to build a nuclear weapon. That is what they want. And they obviously should not be allowed to have any sort of access to uranium. If they want to have power, they can use oil like everyone else. They don't.
But I get it. But what you're saying, should they be able to? What's better, not knowing if they have uranium, or knowing that they have uranium and not letting them enrich it past a certain point? so we know what's going on.
You ask what's better if we do or don't know if they have uranium, or if we know they have uranium, but
And make sure that they're not going past a certain point.
how do we? Okay, let's say that they went past a certain point. Then what?
Then they're out of the deal. That would be a
Then
pretext.
we can bomb them, or like what, sanction them or whatever.
Well, I don't know, whatever you want to do. I'm asking you a question. I'm saying, is it better when we had a deal which they were actually following?
I don't believe that they were following the deal. That's the problem. They weren't following the deal
Why do you think that?
because we saw them building sites up over there for enrich uranium past the percentage that you need to have nuclear power plants.
But we had inspectors going in and they were checking them on that.
Well, they were lying, like not inspectors, but
No,
they were.
we know that we do. We know when they were building things
Uh-huh.
too. The inspectors knew what was going on because there were still inspectors in
I mean,
2025.
Iran is still a pretty large country. I'm pretty sure they could hide some plants that they don't tell the inspectors about.
But the inspectors knew in 2025 when they had a plant that we used the bunker buster on.
Right?
Even outside of the nuclear deal, we had better inspectors during the nuclear deal.
But well, I mean, obviously not going to let the inspectors go in now, but because we're in the middle of a war. But since we're in the
Yeah,
middle,
isn't it better to have inspectors than not have inspectors?
I don't think so.
No?
No, I don't think. No, I don't. I'm sorry. I just don't think that we're speaking the same language. I don't think that it's a good uh, idea for them to have either.
But we had a deal with them.
Uh-huh.
They were starting to come to the table, more friendly relations. We were monitoring if they were actually going to build a nuclear weapon, and we went out of that deal and they said, "Fuck you. We're going to do our thing." And tension skyrocketed under the first Trump administration. They
Uh-huh.
backed down every single time before it went to actual war. And it's like, what situation is better when we actually had them coming to the table? Because
We
the problem, go
if
ahead.
then we put out that deal in like 2017. So the situation in 2020 and the like was post deal.
Yeah, we left in 2018.
Right.
I'm saying though that Iran backed out every time that tensions were going to ramp
Well, yeah,
up.
every time that
They
we
don't want a war with the United States. There's been no evidence of that.
every time that okay, Elijah, no. Every time that we flexed force on them, then they backed down. So yeah,
Exactly. Do you think do you think they want a war with the United States? Is
yes.
Explain yourself, dude. I'm like, we are speaking different languages here.
Do I think that?
Iran has beef with Israel.
Uh-huh.
Now the US gets involved in the region. They have beef with the United States.
Mm-hmm.
There's been times that they've attacked US forces in the region.
Mm-hmm.
They've never threatened an attack on the homeland, and they wouldn't
I
even
don't know
care.
if you
They wouldn't even care about the homeland
if you
if we weren't involved over there.
if you
So I'm asking, Israel is such a liability to the United States because it brings in all these enemies that we wouldn't have otherwise.
if you attack forces that or in our region, I'm pretty sure, like if you attack any U.S. force, I think that you kind of want a war with us, um, no matter where they are.
You're an ally of Israel. You've self-proclaimed ally of Israel. They've just brought us a bunch of enemies in the Middle East, and we had no problems with Iran. And you're complaining that you're afraid they're going to nuke us, even though they haven't ever said that. But they have attacked forces in the Middle East strictly because that we're allies of Israel. So what's the logical solution here? It's
So
to pull out of the region and pull out of our support for Israel. They wouldn't care.
I mean, as
That's
much
literally the entire
as,
reason behind what they're doing.
I mean, as everyone knows, as much as I'd love to do that, I mean, it's like, let's if we talk about the the Bible verse Genesis 12:3, where it says that Well, I believe that God blesses those who bless Israel. I mean, I wouldn't say that by my support of Israel that I've been blessed. I just get like drug on the internet. So I don't really know if that verse is true. But I don't think that if the United States were to pull out of the region, that it would become more stable. And I also
I
don't.
don't, but who cares if the region is stable? I think
Well,
we're caring about United States, America first.
right, and I also care about America first. I like I was saying, I don't think it would make the region more stable, which would be bad for the United States of America because, like it or not, that's where our oil comes from.
We could be energy independent.
Hmm.
We didn't rely on oil from those regions until way, way late in our history.
I mean,
I'm
we're
asking you,
like
what?
newish country. We didn't even have like the cars didn't really start picking up until like the 1900s. So,
No, I know, but we could be energy independent, and you're an ally of Israel, and I'm asking you, why would you be an ally of Israel? There's the costs are obviously way more than the benefits. We have a bunch of enemies in the region.
mhm,
We are literally enemies with militant Islam now, which is a giant force that's not going to die because, like you said, they're dogmatic. It's a
mhm,
very dogmatic, aggressive religion. But we didn't
mhm.
have a problem with them before because we didn't support Israel. We wouldn't even be having this conversation if we
I
didn't start supporting
I don't
Israel in
think
1948. So I'm asking you, like, what you're complaining about them having a nuke, but you're also wanting to make them an enemy, and it's just really confusing.
I don't think it's Israel's fault that we that Islamic countries hate us.
It doesn't matter if it's Israel's fault,
Well,
but it is Israel's fault because they didn't; those countries didn't hate us before we started supporting Israel.
I, well, I mean, it's in their ideology to hate us. I mean, it would be a sin for them not to hate us. No matter we could support Israel, we could not support Israel.
Um,
It still wouldn't matter. They would still be enemies of us.
But that wasn't even in the talking back then before we started supporting Israel. We were allies with those people in those regions. That wasn't even a conversation.
I
No
mean,
one was talking about wars.
they the Middle East, Matthew, sorry, the Middle East has always been pawns of the powers, right? So we had you know them allying with some siding with the USSR, some of siding with the United States. Let's take Israel out of the equation right now. Let's say they don't exist, right? Sand, New Jersey is gone. No one supports them anymore. They don't exist. Uh, we'd still have a problem with them with Iran because China and other players are going to try to ally with them. And China is, would you say, an enemy of the United States?
Yes, as of now, I what I'm saying though is that Iran
Well,
wasn't. We didn't have to push them into China's hands. I'm saying that
I, I'm saying my point
that was
is that
us. Go ahead.
what?
That was us that made ourselves enemies with Iran in the Middle East. I'm saying we're inviting these problems.
I don't think that we've invited the problem of people in the Middle East disliking us.
Well, I'm asking you, why didn't they didn't care. There was no threats. They didn't love the United States, but there was no bad blood before
I mean,
1948.
we would have moved towards being anti-US with or without Israel.
They would have moved. So, what evidence are you basing that on? I get their religion thing, but their religion existed before 1948.
Yeah,
Yeah,
they'd still be opposed towards us, especially as we became, the most powerful country in the world. That's just
we were
how.
we were already the most powerful country in the world, and they were friends,
I
not
mean,
like buddies, buddy, but we were like cordial.
cordial-ish, but we would have moved towards becoming anti. I mean,
But
it's kind
there's
of like
no evidence that they would. If there was no Israel, there's no evidence that they would go against us.
you
Everything
think.
was chill. Everybody was chill.
So okay, let's say that that's true. I don't believe that's true, but what would your solution be? Like, you president of the United States now, what's your solution?
My solution is the solution of the founding fathers. You say you care about the Constitution. The
Hmm.
founding fathers did not believe in foreign interference. They believed entangling alliances created needless problems, and getting involved in tribal conflicts was bad. They believed in America first, that we look after our interests only, and we do not invite other problems. And if you're a self-described constitutionalist,
Mhm.
you need to tell me where the United States, where the president has the authority to get into a war like this as well.
Well, I mean, our first president, George Washington's first foreign conflict was in the Middle East, in I think it was Algeria, I believe.
That was Thomas Jefferson.
Thomas Jefferson,
Yeah.
wasn't he secretary?
No, this was the Barbary Wars,
Yeah,
right? Is
probably
that?
was. Yeah.
Yeah, it was Thomas Jefferson, and
Mhm.
they had a declaration from Congress.
Right. But my point
So
is that
I'm wondering where the president has the authority to. That's why I'm asking.
oh, I thought you were asking about high conservative circle. I thought you were asking about where like is there precedent for wars like this?
No, I'm asking where in the Constitution does the president have the authority
Hmm.
to get us into a war like this? Because the problem is when you have a president that is
Hmm.
in control of that, he can do things based on whim.
Hmm. Well, so we have 60 days before declaration of war has to be signed off by Congress. I believe that's what the law is now. I
But
mean,
that's an unconstitutional law, is what I'm saying. You have to
I
look
mean,
at me.
you have to challenge that in Supreme Court, but I mean
Well,
that's
no,
what.
where does the that you believe in that is? Do you believe the Constitution is the supreme law of the land?
Yes, I'm just saying that that is the law right now. If you wanted to challenge that in Supreme Court, I'd like to see where it goes. I'm pretty sure that there's good arguments on both sides.
What's your argument? Is what I'm asking.
Uh, I'm not arguing if it's constitutional or not. I'm just saying that the law that's on the books right now, it is a law. I'm not a obviously not a constitutional lawyer, so can't argue for or against
Do you
said law.
believe every law that is now is applicable, or do you believe that some laws are wrong because they're unconstitutional?
Well, I think there's some laws are wrong because they're unconstitutional. Like in some states where you have abortion, I think that should be illegal. Um, so, but I don't think personally that the law that is on the books right now is unconstitutional. But again, there's probably good.
Okay, but the Constitution says Congress only can declare
Mhm.
war. So how is that up for negotiation?
I mean, I think it either defines like how you define a war. It depends on how. And I am usually like the original text is what the original text says. But we do have people in Congress that openly hate the United States of America and would leak, secret plans to the press. So to me, to think about Ihan Omar, who hates this country, she loves Somalia, and you have other representatives in Congress that hate this country and love of the countries above it. So if you're going to go to war, do something secret like capturing Maduro and the like. I mean, you can't really inform some of those members of Congress because they'll go running to the cameras.
So the Constitution should be suspended when you want it to.
No, I'm just saying that I'm not saying the Constitution should be suspended. I think that's a terrible act that was bad back in the early 1900s when Wilson was president and he suspended some constitutional liberties. And if the president's doing that now, that's also bad. I'm just saying that it would have to be argued before the Supreme Court to see if that law, which is being used by multiple presidents, is unconstitutional.
Also, the Constitution does not give the Supreme Court unilateral authority to decide what laws mean.
I mean, it's the
That was
Supreme
a power
Court.
given by themselves in Marbury v. Madison.
No, the Supreme Court is his job to interpret the law and see if it's unconstitutional or not.
It's not, well, but that's not the original intention of the Supreme Court.
What do you think the original intention of the Supreme Court is?
They were to try cases under federal law, but they only had appellate jurisdiction, and Congress could decide that.
So who gets to
So,
so let's say that there's a new law that's created. Who gets to decide if it's constitutional or not under the original way that the system's supposed to work?
well, it's really shared between Congress and the president.
Congress and the president get to decide if a law is constitutional or not.
Yeah, it's shared actually really between the three branches because the Supreme Court, if it's true that the Supreme Court gets to interpret the law, then those
That's
nine
right.
men on the bench have the most authority in the entire government, and that wasn't intended.
Well,
Congress has the power to suspend that power of the Supreme Court. And then the
Well,
president, if he doesn't think it's constitutional, can veto the bill. And then
mhm.
obviously Congress can override that. So there's a massive check and power between the three
The
branches. Because if you have the Supreme Court being, oh, they're the wise men on the hill over everything, then they are the most powerful
well, I
in
think
the
that
entire government.
well, the check
Sorry,
for
go ahead.
that sorry, the check for that is obviously that the president goes out, he confirms, he picks his Supreme Court justices, and they have to be confirmed by Congress. So they can't really, uh, if he picks someone that's wild, that they think is going to be out of control and not going to respect the Constitution. Now, some of them might get through, like what's your name, Ketanji Brown Jackson, but in most cases, it's a long process. We have to get multiple congressmen to confirm you, and then you get appointed to the bench by the president. So that's essentially how they're checked. It's not like
But
the
they serve life terms. This obviously wasn't intended. I'm saying when you look at Article 3 of the Constitution,
Mhm,
Congress can suspend the all-powerful judgment powers of the Supreme Court.
mhm.
So all I'm arguing is that the Supreme Court doesn't have unilateral authority over the Constitution. It's
Well,
all
yeah,
branches
not
share
saying
that
the
authority.
three branches of government. I'm not saying that they do have unilateral uh, power, but let's say that this law that's been in effect, I think it's been 20 years, was passed by Congress, signed by the president, and no one's challenged it yet. So, do you think that Congress would, in this hypothetical situation, suspend the Supreme Court and revoke that law from existing?
No, I'm arguing that they should.
I mean, I I guess, but I'm saying it would be much more likely for this law that's on the books to be suspended by the Supreme Court, struck down by the Supreme Court than by Congress, in my
Okay,
opinion.
yeah, I think that I think that's something we can agree on. I was just grilling you over the powers of the Supreme
Mhm.
Court and where you think the constitutional justification goes. You don't have one, I can see. You just go back to laws that are written, but there are so many laws, as you said, that are unconstitutional. That
Right.
really isn't an argument in itself. So
But I think that there's this broad support to challenge the law of the Supreme Court. I'd like to see where it goes.
okay, but yeah, but
I
yeah, I
personally,
know, I agree with you there. I was just asking you where you think where that power comes from, and
well,
then
I
you didn't have
personally
an
think,
answer. So that was we can move on from there. But unless you do have an answer,
I was saying, I personally think that the law, should exist.
but
The
why? Under what constitutional basis?
Right. So the Constitution, I think maybe we should give an amendment to allow the president to do, short actions, like short military actions, like the capture of Maduro. Um, I think that would be a good idea. Obviously, I'm not in Congress. I can't call together a convention of the states and put that in there. But I do think that there is a good argument for it to be made. However, from the original text, there probably isn't one that is being made right now, which, again, I'm not a lawyer, so if someone wants to go challenge that and see where it goes, I'd be all for it.
Okay, so you support an unconstitutional war because you just kind of admitted that it's not in the text really, but you feel like it's necessary.
I, again, I think that there's good arguments on both sides. I just don't have them because I'm not, a constitutional lawyer.
Well, I mean, before you support a policy position, I think you should
Mhm.
make sure that it's constitutional first, because that is the only thing that's preventing this country from going to tyranny. But okay, we have that point out of the way. You support an unconstitutional war. Great, fine. We could go on to the next point is that the founding fathers didn't intend us to be involved and enroped in foreign entangling alliances. It's been proven that it's brought us more grievance than actual benefit. The US was happy as an isolationist nation, obviously responding to threats. But how come you want the United States involved um, all of this over like abroad when it's hasn't really benefited us in any way? We've lost trillions of dollars and tons of lives. I'm just curious, like where this mindset comes from.
I don't believe that it has been disadvantage for the United States. Uh, Being an isolationist country, it didn't really go well for us, right? When we were isolationists in the 20s, we had a great economy, and then it seemed like everything was up for maybe like a decade, and we went into the Great Depression, and then we went into World War II. Because the United States was kind of like, hey, we're not really going to go over there. What happens in Europe stays over in Europe, and so what happens in Europe came over to the United States. If the United States had adopted this policy post World War II and said, "Hey, we're not going to do the Marshall Plan. We're just gonna, keep our food for ourselves, and Europe can fend for itself." More and more countries would have fallen to the USSR, and the USSR might be the dominant power today, and communism might not have fallen. But just because of effective leadership during the Cold War, we were able to defeat the USSR and become the world's global superpower. I believe that if the United States were to retreat from the world and just take out all of its military bases, just say bye bye to Europe, bye bye to Japan, bye bye to some of our Asian bases as well, and just focus only on America, that really would not be America first, because it would lead a power vacuum for other countries to come in and become bigger and more powerful than us, and therefore be able to impose their will on us and our American citizens. In the United States, uh, I just don't want to see that happening, especially because we have this thing called freedom of navigation, which allows ships to go out and be protected by the United States Navy, which allows for global free trade and protects ships that are passenger ships of Americans on them and non-Americans on them as well. It just makes the world and America a much better place overall, that we are the global hegemon and not Russia, not China, not any other country that I haven't mentioned.
Okay, so you said we were isolationists in the 20s, but we were isolationists from the beginning of the founding of this country. We
Mhm.
were had
Well,
peaceful relations with all, for the
I mean,
most part. Come on, let's be honest here.
so what do you think about the Spanish American War and the Indian Wars and
Yeah, there was
the wars?
okay, McKinley 1898, the Philippines 1900.
I mean,
There were little blips, but overall, come
would
on,
you,
be
con-
honest. There was
no,
a
would you
policy
consider,
of isolation.
I would even consider, say that, the Monroe Doctrine, which got us the Louisiana Purchase, or got us the states inside the Louisiana Purchase, saying that Europe has to stay out of our hemisphere. And, they weren't countries, but fighting the Indian Wars for, people alongside the borders, and the Mexican American Wars. I mean, we wouldn't call that isolationist because it wasn't our country yet. And I do think that those things were good.
Was the United States interested before World War One, or as being a global actor and superpower with a bunch of alliances? No.
No, but we
Okay, so yeah, what I'm saying is that we were better off that way, and then obviously everything changed after World War II, and then you're saying that we couldn't let the Soviet Union, take over and all these things, and there was going to be a power vacuum. Is that what you're saying?
Yes, but I don't think that we were better off being isolationist in the late 1800s and early 1900s than we are today. I mean, we
So
might
we
be,
weren't better. We weren't better off then.
are you asking if we're better off in 1880 than we were in, say, 2018?
Are we better off? Yeah. Are we better off in 1880 than we are now?
No, I think we're
No.
better off now.
Okay, so we didn't have barely any debt. We weren't losing lives in pointless wars like we've been in this century, in the last century. We actually had a Christian country. People were unified. We had
When
tariffs. We were going through the Industrial Revolution. Now we've lost everything to China. We're $39 trillion in debt. We've been infected with atheist moral degeneracy. So you're
Mhm.
telling me we're better off now as a focus on a global empire as we've watched the
I
homeland
think overall we're better
deteriorate.
off. I think overall we're better off now than we were in 1880. The problems in 1880, and there are also problems today. I would like to ask you, which wars do you think were necessary for the United States?
That's a good question. Very few. I will say that Afghanistan was necessary, but only for the point of defeating the Taliban. We
Okay.
should have decimated them and got out of there.
Mhm.
Uh, World War II is an interesting one because I don't think that it was necessary originally, and we were funding the Allies, and we kind of roped ourselves into that one. But once we were attacked on December 7th,
Mhm.
I'd argue that since we were attacked, we should join. I would be totally America first, before that point. Um, I guess the Civil War, you could make an argument that it was necessary to keep the Union together. I think that was a good thing.
Okay.
And am I missing anything? I
Well,
really think that's about it.
1770, the War for Independence, I think that was,
Well, that doesn't
yeah.
really count because we weren't a country yet.
Oh, okay, yeah, sure, fair.
Okay.
So that war, so you said 1776, the Civil War, uh,
World
the
War II.
World War II and the Afghanistan War.
Yeah.
So not the Mexican American War. So like half the United States doesn't exist. Uh, if that
I
war does,
wouldn't say I wouldn't really support it then because I think it's just a yeah, I do believe in war in certain cases, but I think that, you know,
so
war should be very, very limited and for
I
very,
think
very important means. And just grabbing territory is something that I'm not super into. That would be
really.
the equivalent of us grabbing Greenland.
So
So
you're not. Do you think the United States would be better off if we didn't have California, Texas, Colorado, New Mexico, Arizona?
no, I don't think we'd be better off. I'm just saying the ends don't justify
I think
the means.
I
If
think
I
that
was back then, I'd say, I don't really want to risk a bunch of lives just to get some new territory. But that's just me. You might be different,
I
but
think I don't know. I'm from Texas. I like the state. I think that that territory was pretty important. I think like that's half the United States. The West, California. You may not like the liberal policies, but it's one of our most important states.
so you would send your kids to go die on behalf of Greenland
I mean,
in a
Greenland.
war.
Greenland. I think that California and Texas are more important than Greenland.
Okay, but what's another territory you think is important that we should have right now?
I mean, there's. I mean, can we make Israel a state?
So you want Israel to
Well,
be part of
I
the
don't know what territory we would want. That's like would be on the level of Texas and California.
Okay, well, let's go back then. You'd let your kids go die to
I mean,
fight that.
I'd go
You'd be
out
like,
there.
"Oh yeah, yeah, I'm totally supportive of that."
I mean, I would go out there and fight if I were able.
You'd fight. Okay. Okay, whatever. I wouldn't. That's fine. This is so far from the issues that we're talking about. I don't think it's really relevant now. I
I'm,
respect your
I'm,
opinion. I mean, I guess, but
I'm just asking, like, which ones you thought were
yeah,
important.
I gave you a list of wars. What the question was, I think, is the U.S. better off now than it is in
I mean,
1880?
I think that we are far more like advanced than we were in 1880. Uh, Technologically, we have much longer lifespan. Now, obviously, are there some culture issues? I wish that the United States and every other country was more Christian. Yes, I agree with that. But I think that overall, as a culture and as a society, when you talk about everyday Americans, not talking about what you see on online on the news, because the news is interesting, but it's their job to make money, so they gotta show the most insane stuff that's happening out there. Like the everyday average American, where you can go instead of having to walk 5 miles, shoot something to eat, you can go walk into your nearest Costco and get food. I do think that those kind of innovations are valuable.
Well, sure, tech is great, and that's going on all over the world. But I think that it's a little bit less important than having strong culture. I think it was better when we didn't lose all of our manufacturing base to China. I think it was better when we weren't in $39 trillion in debt. There's a
I
lot
mean,
of things I think that make a
we
country.
didn't really
eh,
manufacture that much.
Don't you want to be self-sufficient? If you're
Yeah,
the one saying we need to protect ourselves, and you're
yeah,
like,
absolutely. I do want to be self-sufficient from China. We should decouple from China. I agree with you 100%. I'm just saying that
I thought you
overall,
believed in free trade.
I do, just not with communists.
Okay, okay, okay. I'm glad you don't. That's good. I'm glad you clarified that because I thought you did. Go ahead.
I was just saying that, like in 1880, we weren't manufacturing that many things. Like Ford didn't even exist yet. Like we
I'm
had.
saying that was the beginning of the Industrial Revolution. 1880 through, 1945, we were doing
I mean,
pretty
I was
good.
going off of 1880, not just like that era.
Okay, you're saying the specific year
Yeah, you're
1880.
saying between 1880 and
I'm
20.
saying that general era before we became a global empire because that's what we were talking about. Is it better off post 1945 global empire or before?
Oh, wait, okay, that's an interesting question. I'm still going to go with my answer, but I can see where you're coming from with you're talking about this span because you do have more manufacturing on the home front. But I do think that we are better off as a global empire than we are. Well, not. I never said I loved communism. I've never ever said that in my life.
Okay, but I'm getting the gist that, a lot of technological advances, which are great, sure, more important
I
for you
mean,
than cultural
if
unity or
we
self-sufficiency.
without those advances, we wouldn't be able to talk to each other right now. I mean, I think that the internet was one of the great inventions of the 20th century.
I totally agree with you. I totally agree with you. But I just think it's kind of funny that those outweigh all of the other horrible things that have happened to our country. Absolute cultural rot, mass
I think
immigration.
that the culture isn't the best, but it's not horrid. Like,
It's pretty horrid. If our ancestors saw what was going on now, I think they'd lose their shit.
well, I do. I mean, maybe, but I mean, if we went back to when our ancestors were alive, there was also slavery in some aspects. I'm not one of those big people who whines about slavery all the time, but I mean, if we,
1% of the population at its peak.
well, yeah, I mean, that's still bad. If 1%, that's still bad.
Well, obviously, but abortion is like so much more widespread. There's so much more gays.
Well, yeah,
Slavery
I
was
mean, is
contained to a certain
abortion
area
worse?
in the country.
Is
We had
abortion worse
states'
than slavery?
rights.
I mean, sure. I mean, I'd much rather be alive and a slave than be dead.
Yeah, so exactly. That's what I'm saying is like the
Oh yeah, I'm
moral
not saying that.
issues were
I'm not
much
saying that.
smaller then.
Well, I mean, I'm not saying that our culture is perfect now. I'm just saying that I think that it's it's not horrid.
Okay, gotcha. All right, we'll move on from this point. So technology more important. I get what you're saying. I get what you're saying. I completely disagree. But we'll move on to point three.
Okay.
So point three is going to be so you're for a global empire. What is the benefit of Israel? And I think the chat is going to like this part the best. This is what they've been waiting for the whole
Yeah, I
time.
know. I mean, the benefit. What are you asking? How does a global empire benefit Israel?
I'm saying, what is the benefit of our alliance
Oh,
with
what is the
Israel?
benefit of Israel existing? So let's assume that you know,
Not existing alliance with
uh,
Israel.
as opposed to us not having an alliance or like being
Yes.
enemies. Okay, let's assume, for sake of argument, that Genesis 12:3 is talking about the Israel of today, which I mean I believed until like I don't know, like I don't think that it's been a blessing on this channel for me to support Israel. I mean, like I go into like fits of depression. It's all sorts of strategy. In any case, let's believe that verse exists, and it's true, and let's say that restoration theology is not true. Then obviously we want to have the blessings poured onto us and not have curses poured onto us by God.
Yeah,
But
because that's definitely what they're talking about. But
but
finish.
let's take that verse out of let's say that verse doesn't exist, or let's say that your belief on that verse is correct. I believe that they are an important and we don't want to understand with each other, but I think they're an important ally to us. We when we trade stuff like military technology, they can test it out for us. They can improve it for us. Things like they have, like the Iron Dome, we're bringing over here the Golden Dome to prevent from missile attacks from other countries. Uh, we have important technology sharing deals that we have with them, military sharing deals that we have with them as well, and it's a good base for us as a global empire, which I believe is better for us to be a global empire than not, which we just talked about in point two. So even if the biblical reasons for standing with Israel, even if I disagree with those, um, maybe I do, maybe I don't know anymore. I still think that they're an important ally. However, I don't care about them that much that you know I'm going to yap about them 24/7 because like no one likes that.
Okay, so what I'm getting is that there's a Bible verse that you weakly believe in, kind of don't anymore, and we have technology
Well, I
sharing.
mean,
And that's more important
military.
than all the wars that we've gotten into because of Israel and all the enemies
Well,
that we've made.
I said like military sharing, and it's not just like, oh well, ooh, guys, you got a nice chip. It's not that I'm saying that we should send them money because we get chips or whatever. I'm saying that the our military sharing is important, in my opinion.
But is it more important than going to war with militant Islam and constantly having to worry
I
about
mean,
terrorists
I
and
mean, if you want, I think that we should go to war with militant Islam. I think that if I think that we should wipe militant Islam off the face of the earth.
But why would we do that if it's not in
I
the
mean,
interest of the US? Because before 1948, there was militant Islam. Fine, have it over there. I don't give a
I
fuck,
don't think
honestly.
I don't think that it should be allowed to exist.
So the US needs to be control what happens in all parts of the world if you don't like it.
I, I mean, do you think militant Islam should exist?
I don't think it should, but is it our job to go over to where they're doing? I believe
I
America
mean,
is responsible for the
do,
interests of the homeland and their people.
and I do.
Period.
I think it's in our interest to not have militant Islam exist. Do you think that you say that you want to have like a Christian nation? Do you think that the Crusades were good or bad?
I mean, I think it was a, noble thing. Do I think the U.S. should emulate that? No,
I
not
mean, why
really.
not? I mean, I don't think that everything that happened in the Crusades was good, but I do think that if we have a core goal of wiping out Islam, I think that would be a good.
That wasn't a country though. That was Christendom united to do that. I'm
So
talking about country's government is only responsible for the interests of their people. And while we've been focused on fighting Israel's enemies, we've lost so many things that are important about keeping us one nation. We're a divided nation, uh, infested, as I said, with cultural problems. There's drugs pouring across the border every day, which I don't hear the neocons or neolibs ever talking about.
you've never heard
Um,
anyone talk about. I mean, they talk about it all the time.
no, I mean, like, we
The
could be, if
opioid.
we want to use the military, let's fight someone that's actually killing Americans right now, which is the
Again,
cartels.
I
Yet we're
agree.
not doing that for some reason,
I
and
agree. We
we're
should.
fighting Israel's enemy that
I
has never threatened us.
I mean, well, we can do two things at once. I do think that we should drone strike the cartels. Matt Moss said we should drone strike the call centers. Fine, do that too. I mean, I'm in favor of drone striking the cartels and the scam call centers and the opioid manufacturers and the fentanyl people. I never said I was against that. I was totally in favor of that.
I know, but like we're not doing that, and I haven't
Well,
heard a
we
neocon
should.
talk
Like,
about doing.
if
We're
I
over
had
in
President,
Iran right now,
if I
and
had
it's.
President Trump's phone number, I'd call him and tell him to do it. Like,
But I'm saying that you're really, really into this Iran thing.
well, I mean,
I
well, I'm not that into it. I mean, I only made like one video about it.
I know, but you're always in the chat, talking about Iran and
Well, I mean,
Israel.
I, what? Not for like the past months have I talked about Israel. What are you talking about?
Yeah, this is the point of the debate. I've never, ever, ever heard you say that we should go and fight the cartels. But I guess you are saying that you want us to do
Yeah,
both.
nobody even brought it up. I mean, we're talking
Which
about
should have
nonsense.
priority? Which
We're
should
talking
have
about
priority?
nonsense in that chat half the time.
Which should have priority?
Yeah,
Cartels or Iran?
I think that whatever is harming Americans the most at that time should have priority.
So cartels.
I mean, if like in this time in history, like right now, are the cartels harming Americans more than Iran? Probably. So
Yeah, that's obvious.
what?
How many people do you know that have died from Iran?
No, none. But I
Yeah,
don't know anyone who's died from a cartel either.
well, I certainly do. I
What?
live in Yakima, Washington. Look it up. There's a lot
Yeah.
of fentanyl deaths from people coming across the border. I'm sorry, I'm talking too much. Go ahead.
Which border, Canada or Mexico?
Mexico.
Oh well, that's tragic, and I do think that we should drone strike the cartels. I also think that we have a pretty large military. We can do both at once.
So, okay, so what you're saying is we should be striking the cartels and Iran at the same time.
I mean, I think that our military could handle that. I mean, we don't even have to send people to strike the cartels. We can fly a drone over there.
That's true, but there's a lot of cartels. You need to gather intelligence from different
Mhm,
countries. They're not
mhm.
obviously just in Mexico. They're
Yeah,
all over Central and South America. You have to
but
find out where they are. That takes a lot of energy.
uh, again, I agree. Do
We
it.
can't fight a war on two fronts here. I think
I mean,
that's
we
the
did that in
lesson
World
that
War
Hitler
II.
learned.
We were able to beat Germany and Japan. I'm pretty sure we can beat the cartels in Iran.
Sure, but what's better? Don't you think we should prioritize one thing?
I just think that we can do both.
We can do both
I
and
think we can do
also
both.
continue to fund all these social programs, what we're doing,
I, I
and
I've always been in favor of cutting welfare and social programs.
Okay, good, good, good. Okay, so I'm just trying to get a definition of your opinions. I'm just because maybe I made some misconceptions before.
I never said that we should just like give free money to people. Like I don't know where you got that idea. That's never been an aspect
But
of my culture ever.
I'm sure you want to pay off the debt. That's going to take a lot.
Well, yeah, but I mean, I've
I'm
been
sure
thinking
you
about it.
want. Do you want mass deportations?
Yes,
Do you want to fix the economy? Do you want tax cuts?
yeah.
Do you want to get rid of the Federal Reserve?
I'm not sure about that. Maybe, maybe not.
Okay, well, we won't go into that. But
I'm
this is
not
a
a
lot of
libertarian.
things. You're saying that we can do everything.
Well, I'm not really sure how uh, cutting entitlement programs like welfare and SNAP benefits, which we have done a little bit with like the rotisserie chicken law and not letting them have soda and cake on taxpayer dollars. I'm pretty sure there's more that we can go in and cut. I'm not really sure how cutting how the United States can't fight a war and cut benefits at the same time.
No, but there's all these things,
Oh yeah,
fighting the
there's
Federal
always
Reserve,
something.
cutting tax. It takes a lot of energy, mass deportations. You can't do
Mhm.
70 things at once.
I mean, there's always going to be when we have different departments for that. We have the military that does war, and then we have ICE that does the mass deportations.
Money, dude, money. How are we gonna balance a budget?
I mean that's the Democrats' fault for holding up the ICE funding and DHS funding because they got mad that someone died because they were in the middle of the road. Like, what are you doing? Move.
I know, right? Ukraine, should we be funding them?
Mm. I think there's good arguments on both sides. I'm not
What
really
is
sure.
your argument? Should we or no?
I'm not really sure where I stand on that. Uh,
Are you okay with money going?
well, I'm okay with funding it for weapons, but not for whatever corrupt stuff that's going on in their government
Are you okay with sending taxpayer money?
to Ukraine.
Yeah.
I guess I'm 50-50. I'm not like losing sleep about it. I'm not really sure where I officially stand on that.
Okay. Um, I'm pretty against it, but
Hmm.
just what I'm getting is that you want to do a lot of different things at once. Okay, I don't think that's super feasible, but whatever. And you want to be allies with Israel because of tech sharing and
Military
a
experience, well,
okay, um, great. I mean, we could be focusing on building our own military too. I mean, a lot of the money we spent on Israel's Iron Dome could be going on, our programs.
we spend almost $1 trillion in military funding. They get like what 3.8 billion. That's a drop in the bucket. It's not like we're gonna have a special plane because planes cost more than $3.8 billion, and the stuff that we get back from them is worth more than $3.8 billion, in my opinion. I know no one here is gonna share that.
Okay, I know what you're saying, but
I
any
think
money
that
that we spend on their programs, I'm saying, could have been spent on ours.
I mean, what would an extra $3.8 billion do for the military that we don't have right now?
I mean, it could do it's just money that you could use for us. It's like
So,
if I was giving you, tech boy, $50 out of my pocket, I'd
mhm.
definitely be thinking, "Oh, these are all of the things I could spend on it for my interests."
I mean, that's
It's
because
just throwing money away.
I don't. Well, I think that our alliance with them is worth more than $3.8 billion, and that's actually something that I even disagree with the Prime Minister of Israel on, which he doesn't want us to be sending them money and things of that nature anymore. He said in the 60 Minutes interview this week. So,
Yeah, right.
I mean, that's what he said. I mean, what do you want?
He's doing a PR move, dude. It's obvious he wants our money.
Well, I mean, I don't think his PR is in the gutter. I,
They literally rely on the US to keep them propped up, and then he's
I mean,
like,
he's
"Yeah,
saying that he doesn't want
I
to,
didn't
right?
want any
He's not. I'm
money."
not saying he's telling the truth or anything. I'm saying he doesn't want to rely on the U.S. anymore.
Okay, I think that's just a I can't believe you even brought that up, but,
But, I mean, what do you expect me? You expect me not to bring that up? I mean, his
it's
PR is.
just so crazy. It's so
I mean,
crazy.
his PR is obviously in the gutter. You go check any Instagram comment section, you stub your toe, they're all blaming him.
Yeah, I'm just saying that you were arguing military tech sharing is more important than all the endless foreign wars that we've gotten dragged into, militant Islam hating us,
They,
and trillions of dollars down the drain. But hey, the our sharing of tech and
I
military is
think
really important.
I do think it's really important. I think it's important on the global scale. It's just geopolitics is really complicated to explain because it's just the way that things have been. So you can't really say, well, let's look back because yeah, it was different back in 1945, but the world was a different place in 1945. When the countries that didn't even exist in 1945, like India and Israel, and countries that existed then that don't exist now.
Yeah. Yes, foreign policy is complicated, but I just think that your benefits that you listed, I don't think they outweigh the costs, and I don't
I
think
guess it's up to
most.
the
Sorry, go ahead.
I guess it's up to the American people and Congress to decide. It's not like they're paying. It's not like Israel is paying me to go out and do PR for them.
I don't know about that. No, I'm just
I
kidding.
don't pay money. If
Uh,
Israel paid me money, I mean, you'd obviously see a lot more videos. I mean, but they don't pay me money, which is why I shut up about them unless people ask me like directly.
yeah, I just wanted your opinion, and so we've established a couple things. We can wrap up in a little bit. I have a couple other questions. I'm having a
Uh,
great time. I don't know. Um, we've established that it's okay to fight an unconstitutional war if you like it. The U.S. is better off now than it was before 1945 when we had self-sufficiency and a good culture because of the technology.
we
And we've established that, tech and military sharing is a benefit that outweighs the cost of, you know, all the trillions of dollars that we've poured down the drain and getting us involved
trillions.
in a bunch of conflicts.
Oh, well, I mean, I
We
never.
spent like $9 trillion in the war on terror.
Well, I think the war on terror is a good thing. I never said I oppose those wars.
No, I know that, but I
Well,
oppose those wars.
oh
You're
yeah,
saying
but
that they were beneficial, but I'm
I
saying
think
that it's
that.
because if we didn't
I mean,
have an
I'm not saying
alliance
that
with
we did
Israel, we wouldn't
perfect
be
in them.
there.
I'm not saying we did perfect in them. Obviously, we're not a perfect country. I'm just saying broadly, and that's even unpopular in Republican Party today. That I do support them.
Yeah, no, I know you support them. I'm saying that we wouldn't be involved in those wars if it wasn't for Israel. Because you could say, oh, they attacked. They were
Well,
making weapons of mass destruction. They weren't. You could
I mean,
say
chemical weapons,
what?
chemical weapons.
They didn't have weapons of mass
They had
destruction
some
as the
chemical
people have.
weapons. I mean, from the first war back in the 90s.
Iraq.
Yeah,
Yeah. Okay. So you're saying that that was justification of our invasion.
I think that it was a good idea. We wanted to, of course, dismantle a terrorist government. Obviously, that's going to be not popular here. I'm just saying that uh, it's my justification based on my reading of history.
But yeah, what I'm saying is that we wouldn't even need to worry about
So you're
Islamic
saying that
terrorists
if,
if there was no if there was no association with
you're
Israel.
saying that if like Sand, New Jersey didn't exist, the world would be a much better, much more peaceful place, and we'd all be in harmony.
The U.S. I'm not saying if Israel didn't exist. I'm saying if the U.S. wasn't allied with Israel,
So,
we wouldn't be inviting these problems. Tech
yes,
boy, you have to understand. I don't really care what happens over there. I
I,
care about
I
my
mean, I don't
people
care
in
what
the United
happens.
States.
I don't care what happens over there. I don't care what happens in Montana. I only care what happens if I believe it's going to affect the United States of America. I am America first. I just think that what happens over there affects us.
Supporting Israel, in my opinion, is not America first because it invites way more cost than it does
I
benefits.
I
And
think
you've
that
made a very weak argument on the other
I think
side.
that if we didn't support Israel, let's say that we even oppose them, I still think that we still have the same amount or even more of attacks on U.S. soil. I still think that 9/11 would have happened whether or not Israel exists or we're allied with them or we're enemies with them. I still think that it unfolds.
You think 9/11 would have happened if we weren't allies with Israel and didn't wasn't involved in the region? They just decided, let's fly a plane into the World Trade Center just because.
Yes.
What? Where? Like, how are you coming up with that?
I mean,
That's like they
what
they they didn't do. They had they. There's no evidence they had any problem with us before then.
what kind of? I mean, it's so illogical to fly a plane that you are in through a building. I do think that the people who did that, the people who are insane enough to do that, would do that, whether or not we have an allyship with Israel.
They care about their religion very much. We agree about that point.
Yeah.
And they do not. They did the justification for the attack, which obviously I'm not justifying it. I think there was
Mhm.
horrible, evil people. We should kick the shit out of Al Qaeda.
Mhm.
I'm saying that their justification was our presence in the region. There
I
was no there were no terrorist attacks in the United States before 1948. There was
mhm.
no writings from any militant Muslims that suggested that we were going to hurt the United States somehow. That
That's
just didn't exist.
it's in their holy book that they want to kill infidels. We would still be infidels to them whether or not Israel existed or not, or if we were allies with them or not. I do think that that would have happened. Now, I don't have a time machine. We can't find out, but I do think that would have happened. Maybe
Okay,
not.
so
Maybe not.
Muslims and Christians existed peacefully on different sides of the world for most of history, and then you're saying that that would have changed
Yes, I mean there weren't planes. This is bad. So once the planes became more
once planes became a thing.
well, like once there's more connection between the two. I mean, you can make the same claim that the Indians and the Europeans existed peacefully before the ship was invented. Well, yeah, they were over there and we were over here.
Okay, thank you for brainstorming a hypothetical. I don't think that that's.
Yeah, I think that I take the words that they say, "Death to America, kill the infidels," very seriously.
Yeah, they weren't saying that before 1948. Yes,
It,
they
well,
were.
it's in the
There.
not Death to America like in their book, but it's in their book where they say kill the infidels. We would be infidels to them. Christians are infidels to Islam.
Yeah, but we could cross that. Even if that did happen, it was unlikely. They're usually they weren't going to get any further than pushing around the outskirts of Europe. That's how history had played out. They were in Europe for a while. They were pushed back very far. That would be something way, way down the road. I doubt it would
I
happen. I
think.
doubt they'd ever get the capabilities to even get into Europe. And so
I
obviously,
mean,
if
you
they
don't think.
had a direct problem with us, I would want to confront
You,
that. But cross that bridge when you come to it.
you
You know
don't
what
think.
I mean?
I mean, I can see your point. You don't think that 9/11 they had the capability to pull off 9/11 if we were in the region? I mean, it's not that hard. All you have to do is get a pilot's license, take over the plane, and fly. So I do think they would like. I'm not saying 9/11 would have happened on 9/11, September 11th, 2001. I'm saying an event like that, or even the event itself, would have happened eventually.
Okay, okay. What you're saying is that, you know, even if we didn't have an alliance with Israel, even though
Mhm.
there were no problems before that directly with the US, and all their attacks, or most all of their attacks, have been justified by the fact that the US and Israel are allies and that the US is involved in the region, that somehow over time they would start hating the United States and then would fly a plane into a building. I guess good job brainstorming, that's possible,
It's
but
in the. I mean, it's the
we
religious. It's like the religious aspect. I mean, if it was China, I'd say no, maybe that's not going to happen. But again,
but they were focused on Europe first and their immediate surroundings first. So we could cross that bridge when we come
I
to it.
mean, but
Then it becomes a point of,
we- I
once it
mean,
happens, then we can address the threat. But
but we were also
inviting
allied
conflict is
with
doesn't make sense to me.
sorry, we were also allied with other European countries as well. Poland, the UK, like for all those countries. So are you saying we should just cut off ties from them as well?
I think we should pull out of NATO. I think we should pull out of the United Nations.
I think
Um,
we should pull out of the United Nations, definitely.
yeah, I
They're
don't I
useless.
don't know why you're so allied with socialist Europe now.
So I thought you liked Europe.
I like a lot of the European tradition. I like European history.
Mhm.
Um, I don't think that their governments are good. I
I
think
mean,
they're
somebody
secular, liberal. They hate free speech.
I think we
They
should have
don't pay their fair share. Sorry.
of what taxes, NATO.
Yeah, they invite a bunch of immigrants in. They're literally
Again,
inviting
yeah,
the Muslim
there's a
problem
problem
into their
over there in Europe
country.
as well. I'm just saying that a country cannot really exist without allies. If we want to be a great country, we have to have allies on the world stage. I think that Europe is. I mean, it's fine. I don't hate Europe. I despise the EU. They're annoying, but I think that we should have allies with Europe as well, especially in post World War II with the Marshall Plan. We were flying planes in to the west side of Germany and flying in food to all the European countries that had been bombed. I do think that was a good thing because it established ties with us and also made some of us money. The arms that we sent to Great Britain, they were actually on a loan, so they actually have to pay us back money with interest. So we also made money off of that as well. So I do think that we should have some ties to Europe. I'm not saying that we gotta, if Lithuania gets attacked by like some other random country that we gotta come to their aid. I'm just saying that I think we should have some ties to Europe.
Okay, first of all, Surge 155 Finish Line USA is on Instagram, and if you go to the Finish Line with Owen Kane on YouTube, it is there also. I'm going to start a Rumble pretty soon, but that's it for now. To address your point, Tech Boy, the U.S. did survive without entangling alliances for the majority of its history, so
I mean,
that talking point is completely baseless.
no, it's not. It's not baseless because again, the world was different back then, and when we got out of those alliances, we got drug into we got drug into wars. I mean, the United States has been at war for like 90% of its history. Now, that is including wars that were on the homeland, so it's including stuff like the Civil War and the Mexican-American War. But there's stuff that happens. I mean, I would love to not care what happens in the Middle East. I would love to not care about Israel. I would love to not care about what happens in Europe. And I really don't really care that much about what happens in Europe. But uh, the stuff that happens over there does affect us, whether or not we realize it.
Also, I'll address that point. I'm going to ask you to clarify a little bit, but number two, military experts agree this is a widely known fact that the U.S. could protect itself even if every single country went against us offensively. If we were on defense, we could protect ourselves.
Yeah, I've seen those videos, and it's really cool. I do think that we have great geography that protects us from something like that happening. I'm not. Are we saying no nukes? Or are we just saying that nukes are off the table?
No, nukes are on the table.
Okay, if nukes are on the table, I'm not really seeing how that war ends well for anybody. If everyone's nuking the U.S. and we have to choose which countries we want to nuke, but I'm not really seeing how that ends well for anybody.
Well, I'm saying that it's a better solution to, get out of these alliances, peacefully trade with everybody, and focus on the United States. You don't have wars. You don't
I,
have people angry with one another. You're neutral. And
that
I'm saying
sounds
that even if the fact came that all countries came against us, which is not going to happen, is very rare, we still have the upper edge. So I'm saying
I mean
my solution is better than being involved everywhere and getting all these enemies.
that sounds like a utopia, but it's not what would happen in real life. Like that sounds like a video game mechanics or like that wouldn't even fly in high school. Like when you have the different cliques with each other, that would not work in high school. It wouldn't work uh, on the global stage. Like
What wouldn't work?
isolating to the extent that we have no presence anywhere and
Well,
that
I
all
think keep our bases, whatever. I'm just saying we don't need to have alliances with these countries. I mean, we can have embassies.
wait, you said like military bases or embassies?
Embassies. We can figure out. We can do intelligence,
I,
that kind of thing. It
I'm
just seems weird to me that you're inviting all these conflicts when that's just brought us problems. We have
I
a
think
model
that
of
if the
how the
United
U.S.
States
was.
withdrew from the world, took out all the bases, we'd have more problems than we have now. Because we'd fill in a power vacuum, and the countries that ally with us now, like the European countries, would then go vote to be allied with China, who would then become obviously the sole dominant power in on the globe and start imposing their will. And I do not want that to happen. That would be worse for America, and Americans would actually feel it, like they'd actually feel what's happening to them.
Yeah, obviously, I wouldn't want that to happen. What I'm saying is we have a model of how the U.S. was before 1945. Really, was mostly not involved in these entangling alliances,
Right.
uh, and we were better off that way. And
I
also, yeah,
mean,
I don't want China
before
and Russia to be.
1945, we had two world wars. After 1945, we had no world wars. So I think that having no world wars and just like smaller conflicts is better than having major world wars with maybe like a 20-year period of peace.
I'm talking about America, dude. We lost
We were
people
in
in
the World War.
Korea. We lost people in Vietnam. We
I'm
lost
saying
people.
we were in those world wars. When America withdrew from the world started, messing stuff up over there, and they got drug over into the United States, and we had to go solve those problems not once but twice.
We didn't need to solve those problems, though.
I mean, you don't think that we should have declared war on Germany after they sank our ship in 1917, or after the Zimmerman telegram?
The Zimmerman telegram was to Mexico. Do you think Mexico would have listened to that?
I mean, they might have. It was right. It was. I mean, Mexico had just lost maybe like what 70 years ago the land, and they're saying that if they joined our side, that Germany and Mexico would have gone up against the United States in like 1916. I mean, Germany versus and Mexico on the United States homeland by itself, no allies. That might have been a tough battle. We would have lost American citizens who actually lived in those homes. And they
Well, I
also
mean, if we were attacked, I'd be completely for it. Sorry, I keep cutting you off. Go ahead.
it's okay, but they also sank one of our ships, so it's not like this is a baseless threat. It was a civilian ship. It wasn't even a warship.
Yeah, no, I'm obviously not pro that. I'm just saying that there wasn't an attack on the US homeland and
There wasn't because I mean there wasn't because Germany sent a telegram, we intercepted it, then they sank our ships, so we declared war on them.
yeah, I think it was a little bit I think we rushed into it a little bit, but both of us agree this is a point we can agree on. If we're attacked, directly attacked, I agree with you that we should go into war. So I'm not 100%, against all foreign conflicts. I'm just saying that as a model of a
Mhm.
nation, we did better when we weren't involved in a global empire
And
than we
I think I disagree with that as well. I mean, I would I don't want to see direct attacks on U.S. soil. I don't want to see that.
of course
And
not.
I think that if we were to withdraw from the world, we'd see a lot more attacks on U.S. soil.
I don't think we would because we didn't before we were involved in a global empire.
I mean, we
We we
saw.
we did pretty good as a neutral country. Better than we do now. Had
I
less
think.
enemies.
Well, we like I said, the Zimmerman telegram, the ship getting sunk, the Pearl Harbor, those all happened while we were officially neutral in those conflicts.
Yeah, we really World War II is a completely different story. We were funding the Allies. It was pretty obvious that we were getting involved in the war. Um,
So, I mean,
I don't justify Japan attacking us. That's not what
I
I'm
mean, we just
saying at
sent
all. But
them.
it's just kind of if we had stayed out of that, they wouldn't have attacked us.
I think they would have. Like if even if we didn't send them stuff, which I think is totally fine to send people stuff, that doesn't mean like we're just trading with them, and we decide not to trade with the other side. That doesn't mean we have to. Like, that doesn't mean that we're like officially on their team. It just means that we sell them stuff. Like we have the right to decide who we want to sell stuff to.
Well, you keep saying this stuff like I think they would anyway, but there's not evidence of that when the attacks are directly related to the action that we did.
So
So
let's say that uh, the World War II happens without the United States of America. How do you think that plays out?
World War II without the United States of America, I think Germany takes over a bunch of Europe,
Hmm. And
and
what
yeah,
about Japan?
I think Japan probably takes a lot of stuff that it wants. I
So
don't
like
think it. I don't think it comes over to America.
so you think that the world would be a better place
I
if
don't care about the world. I care about the United States. That's why I'm
well, the
America
world next to the
only.
United States?
Yeah, but I'm saying that they wouldn't. I'm saying that the
So
United States could face all threats.
post World War II, Japan has, I guess, its islands. Maybe it has like Korea or whatever. Germany has control of all of Europe, including the Soviet Union. So I guess instead of communism, we have Nazism. Do you think that America would be a better place if we had the Japanese Empire and the German Empire and like just America by itself up until in 1950?
I mean, that's something you kind of have to weigh the costs and benefits again. I mean, World War II is an absolute train wreck, and I mean,
Hmm.
Winston Churchill is kind of at fault for that. I mean,
Is his fault for World War II?
it's his fault that they got pulled into the war and then the United States did. Uh,
Well, maybe Germany shouldn't.
if you read Hitler's writings, he wanted. I'm not pro Hitler. I don't like Hitler, by the way. So don't act like that. He
I never
wanted
said
living
that you were.
space. He wanted living space in Eastern Europe, and because the British were so committed to these Eastern European countries having their independence, they completely screwed their country, got involved in a war, and they really have never come back from it since. Um, so what I'm saying is that the war would have been much better off if if Germany, just took those countries in the Eastern Europe. I don't think it was a good thing. I'm not pro Hitler. I'm not pro German expansion. I think it was aggressive and wrong and evil. I'm just saying that it wasn't in direct interest to the U.S. in any way, and
I,
I think the United States would be a better place
I think
if we stayed out of the war and not lost, thousands of lives.
I think a Cold War with Nazi Germany, because that's what would have happened, and we have historical precedent for that, because we had a Cold War with the Soviets, would have been worse than a Cold War with with the Soviets. I'm just think that World War II, getting involved in it, was beneficial for the United States, and that the United States would be in a better place in what happened in 1950. 1950's United States was in a better place than what would have happened if we had this hypothetical Japanese empire, hypothetical Nazi empire for the United States of America.
Uh, Keep going. Explain why.
I I mean, first of all, you're going to have by 1950, Alaska and Hawaii were states. So that means you have the Nazi Empire like 2 miles away in the winter because it freezes over from Alaska, which is a United States state by that time. You also have the Japanese Empire, uh, like again, a few miles away with all the islands that they have control over. The Korea, the Philippines, close to Hawaii, which also became a United State, and they were expanding. We have evidence from that from the war. So I mean,
Sure, sure. My argument though is that if the US was ever directly threatened, we would be able to defend ourselves. The
mhm.
experts agree on that. Almost all of them do. And secondly, World War II was absolutely disastrous for the United States,
I mean,
debt-wise,
we,
life-wise. Uh, I mean, it kind of changed our outlook on things. It created the post-war order that's given us free trade and given us mass immigration and given us entangling alliances. And, I think the disconnect here is that you really care about what's going on in the world and you care
no,
about
I really
peacekeeping.
don't.
Well, I'm saying that the United States is better as a fortress because we can defend ourselves from attacks from even all nations at once. And you're saying that no, it's better that we lose a ton of thousands of lives to go get involved overseas to prevent things from happening that could possibly hurt us in the future.
I mean, let's say in 1950, the United States doesn't get involved in World War II. Some of the advancements in military technology that we have that make us the most powerful nation on planet Earth, they may not exist. The atomic bomb probably does not exist. So when we have Japan and Germany, which are expansionist empires coming and knocking on the door of the United States of America and invading us and doing a direct attack, I think we'd be in a worse off place in 1950 trying to fend off from a Japanese attack and a German attack without the advanced military technology that we had, like the supersonic planes that were being developed and the atomic bomb that had been developed at that time. Then we would have been then entering the war in 1941 when everyone was out on the same footing, and obviously Germany and Japan weren't as large as they would have been in this space.
So you're saying that they would have gotten an atomic bomb and we wouldn't have if we didn't go into World War II. I
Uh,
might have misunderstood you.
I'm saying that maybe the atomic bomb doesn't exist, but they are much larger empires in 1950 attacking the United States than they would have been attacking the United States in 1941. And the military technology that we would have had would have been stuck basically in the 30s, and maybe even the 20s and
It
30s.
wouldn't it wouldn't have to be though.
I mean, it wouldn't have advanced as quickly because we needed that tech as soon as possible.
We would actually have more time to spend money on our military instead of funding our military abroad in a bunch of conflicts. We'd have more time to focus on
I think that
technology. We'd have more time to focus on science.
I think
We'd
that
we,
America I think that
we'd be in
America
a we'd be in a bubble, and we'd be able to develop things quickly
that
and without worrying about.
that's not how the world works. I think that America's military technology in this hypothetical would be worse off than it was in 1950. Uh, like real 1950, the military tech that we had would have been worse. Sorry, that in hypothetical 1950, the military tech would have been worse because we just didn't have the need to do so. And if the Germans who would have had spies here, and the Japanese who would have had spies here, and we know that we have spies from other countries in our country. We just caught a Chinese spy yesterday or 2 days ago. They would have found out that if we were trying to develop technology such as a nuclear weapon, then they would have actually invaded us or tried to bomb us, kind of like what we do to Iran. So I don't think that just staying in your own little bubble would be good for the United States of America. I am America first. I care what happens to America and America only. It's
No,
just that
I go ahead.
what happens in the world does affect the United States of America, which is why I care.
I hear a lot of hypotheticals. I'm starting to understand your argument. I just think it's a little preposterous that you would suggest that being involved in like a bunch of different theaters in World War II while at the same time developing technology would be more successful than actually having all your time to spend money on technology. And
But
I just think it's interesting that you think it's better to be involved globally in the world at the same time as trying to address our own problems, even when it's proven that when we focus a bunch of time overseas, that everything degrades here, which it has.
well, I
You've
think
told
that
me that we're
problems,
better off now than we were in 1945 because
and
of
I stand by that.
tech, because of technology. I mean, I think we're living in entirely different worlds. I think that a strength of a nation is based on its cohesion, its self-sufficiency, and its strength. I don't think it's based on how good it's able to share technology and, be friends with other nations. I think these are just two completely separate worldviews.
But I think that problems with the culture should not be entirely solved by the government. Now, so obviously, the government has caused some problems in the culture, like giving welfare to single mothers, which incentivizes them to not get married and just have tons of kids with like different men. But
They've caused most of the problems in the
I think
culture.
that culture can be solved by the church, which obviously should not be part of the government. We shouldn't have like the Church of the United States or whatever. I think that cultural problems can be solved by the church, and the government can focus on doing governmenty things such as military actions, not just overseas, but against the cartels and scam call centers or whatever. I mean, I'd be in favor completely of expanding that.
Yeah, I just think you're trying to do too many things. I think that our alliance with Israel, I think that the benefits of military sharing are much less than the cost of, and I keep saying this over and over again, but it's true, the cost of all the enemies that we've made and all the wars that we've been involved in and all the debt that we've racked up. We have a model, and we're going in circles here. I'll get to the last point, but
Mhm.
we have a model of how the US operated before World War II, much more successful, in my opinion. You value technological advancement, GDP, more than I do. I don't. Um, I value it, but not above the other things I've mentioned. So you're completely in a different camp than me.
Well, I mean,
Um,
that I don't value other things as well. I just think that things such as GDP actually affects the everyday American, which is like I think caring about the everyday American is America first. But I'm not going to be tied. I'm not going to tie my career or whatever my talking points to Israel, right? I mean, I think if we went through a transcript of this afterwards, and we could check that actually you've brought up Israel more than me because I focus on what benefits to the United States of America, not to what benefits of the foreign countries.
Okay, but this whole debate originated around Iran, and we talked about, Iran getting a nuke, and you
Mhm.
said that you think they'd use it against the US, but you
And
didn't really
I
have
still do think that
you think they would use it, but there was no. actual evidence
I
that you
think the answer
provided.
to America is pretty clear what that means.
Yeah, but Russia said we're gonna wipe the United States off the face of the earth in 1956. They were in the
They
White House
also
3 years
they also
later.
did with the
China
Cuban.
said the same thing. We didn't go over there. We didn't get involved. They didn't do it.
I mean, they almost did with the Cuban Missile Crisis. They stationed nuclear missiles 90 miles away from the United States shores. I mean,
And we work through things with diplomacy. That was just a threat. They weren't actually gonna strike the United
well,
States.
it
It's
was
beer
diplomacy.
talk, dude.
It was diplomacy and also a threat as well. We moved our missiles over into Turkey, so it was
And
that
I completely agree with that. I completely if you attack the homeland, I think we should threaten Iran and say, if you
I
attack the United States, you're fucking decimated in a day. And
absolutely.
that would happen. And Iran knows that. That's why we had the Iran nuclear deal.
I,
But you don't think having inspectors there is that important? We should pull out of it and just not really know what's going on there. And then
well, I think that just we don't want to play with nuclear weapons. Like that's not a thing that I'm in favor of. I think that less countries should have nuclear weapons, and not more. We already have enough countries that have nuclear weapons. They should all give them up, in my opinion, except for the United States. Obviously, that's not going to happen. But the we just don't want to play with that, and we don't want to play with those kind of threats, especially with a radical Islam dictatorship who would gladly sacrifice their own people if it meant that they could kill 1 million Americans with a nuclear weapon.
how does this war end also? I don't what's the objective here? How is this gonna end? Are we gonna win, in your opinion?
I always hope that we win every conflict that we go into. I think that we're going to win. Uh, I think that it ends with hopefully United States control of the Strait of Hormuz. We've already taken out major people in their government multiple times. So hopefully we can have a more pro-U.S. Backed government. I'm not saying that we need to go in there boots on the ground and have some sort of democracy styled after the United States of America. I'm just saying that we're going to go where they say they're not going to have any nuclear weapons or any nuclear material at all. Use oil if you want power, and that we have control over the Strait of Hormuz.
Which we had before,
I mean,
the war
they
began.
still had control over it. They could mine it.
Yeah, but we were going through.
I mean, yeah, but they could use it as a negotiating point tactic.
Okay,
I'm just in favor of getting rid of problems before they arise.
the thing is, though, that the people there are Islamic, and they're part of that religion, and as
I
you
mean,
said, that religion wants to survive, so do you think that the problem is gonna go away? Because every time that we've, done damage to them or threatened them, we literally threaten to wipe out their civilization. They just keep building things up because they care about their homeland. So,
I think that the government of Iran cares about Iran and themselves living, but I don't think that they care about the citizens and the people of Iran.
but the people care about their country. The people
They care
care
about
about their homeland.
they don't care about they hate their government. They don't elections.
Yeah,
The
they
elections are rigged. They want to have a democracy. They want to have a much better economy. They want to make Iran a better place for them. So I mean, technically they care about their country, but they don't care about their leadership. I mean, they're outside cheering when he got killed in the middle of a
but
bomb session.
yes, they do not like the current regime, but every time we do elections and revolution, you get very fundamentalist leadership because that's what the people believe. They're
It's
fundamentalist
not. No,
Islam.
the population of Iran, by and large, does not believe in fundamentalist Islam. I'm not saying that we should import them over here. I don't want any more Muslims coming over into the United States of America. I'm just saying that they don't really believe that.
It's an Islamic country that cares about their sovereignty.
Right. The government cares about that. The government are the hardliners, but they are more moderate. Now, are they moderate enough to live here? No. But on a scale of 1 to 10, I'd say that the government is a 10, and that the people might be a 6.
But you're always going to have this fundamentalist Muslim terrorist problem. They're always the ones that are going to end up having power. Um, that's the argument that I'm making. If you want to do a regime change thing, it hasn't really ever worked before. and the wrong people end up always taking over. I guess you could
I'm
say
not
when we installed the Shah, I bet you probably thought that was a good thing, but the Shah was hated and eventually overthrown anyway. It's just an unstable region. There's not a game plan here. They've let the people might not like their government, but they like their sovereignty and they want to keep that. And
I think that if given the choice, like the actual choice, not under fire, would the people rather them be led by the United States, or if they have to be led by the government of Iran? They choose the United States.
so
By
then
I'm not
you
saying that
think
we could make them a state or set up a system of government. I'm just saying that the people are not, radical, crazy on the level of the government.
Yeah, I'd agree with that, but if you were gonna install a democracy over there, that takes a bunch of money.
Right. I never said
Uh,
I need to install a democracy over there.
you want them to install a democracy.
I mean, I would like them to do so, but we shouldn't. It shouldn't cost our money for us to, like, I don't know, buy them voting machines or whatever.
But you think that once this government is overthrown, there's gonna be no problem and that they're not gonna keep
No, no.
building.
Obviously, there's always gonna be problems in the Middle East.
Exactly. So we're in this stalemate. They're gonna want to keep doing what they're doing. Maybe the people aren't as radical, but they're gonna they still believe in Shia Muslim,
Right, as long
Islamic
as
religion.
they can believe what they want, just as long as they do not have a nuclear weapon or any nuclear material, and they don't have a military or navy powerful enough to temporarily shut down the Strait of Hormuz and use as a negotiating chip. I don't want them to have that. And so far the navy has been broadly decimated. They're running out of rocket launchers, so I think that's a great thing for the United States.
Okay, yeah. Last point I'm gonna make, and then we can
Mhm.
go. This goes back to Israel. Again, I'm saying that we wouldn't have this problem. I know you disagree based on your hypotheticals if we didn't support Israel. Your two reasons for supporting Israel were um, the fact that there's military sharing and that there's a Bible verse that you don't really believe in. And so, do you still believe that we have a moral biblical duty to support Israel?
I mean, I think that um, it's. I mean, well, no one's watching this, so yeah. Yeah, I guess, yeah.
Based on
I mean, I still believe broadly in that prophecy. It's just not. I mean, maybe it works differently for countries and different than after people.
what?
I'm saying maybe that prophecy wasn't talking about people like like me, because I wouldn't say that I have received any, like, personal blessing for standing with Israel. But maybe it works differently for countries.
The blessing is, but remember, we talked about this in our last debate.
Yeah.
The New
And
Testament clarifies that Israel is a
right, I
broader
agree.
metaphor for Christians. So
Yeah,
the blessing is
of
salvation.
I've heard of replacement theology before.
It's not
Oh,
a theory. I mean, it's
I
literally
said
defined
theology.
in
I
the
didn't say
New
theory.
Testament. What?
I say replacement theology, not theory.
Well, I know. I'm just saying that
I mean, it's like a.
dispensationalism is biblically wrong.
I mean, it's like one of those debates that lots of Christians disagree on, like baptizing a baby or whatever.
But this one is just dumb because there's not evidence of Israel
Oh
referring
yeah, I don't
to
think it's. I think it's prophetic. I wouldn't say it's dumb. I'm not saying that the people on the other side are bad people, or not Christians, or they're not going to go to heaven or whatever. I
No,
just think.
I don't think it's a salvation issue, but
Mhm.
for the audience here that is confused about this and might support Israel just because of biblical reasons, um, throughout the New Testament, Christians are called the new Israel. The word Israel means to contend with God and with the man and prevail. And I don't know where Tech Boy just went, but I guess I'll finish my thought here. Uh, what happened was Jacob, the patriarch, got in a wrestling match with God, and the wrestling match symbolized all the trials that God had put him through and that men had put him through in his life, and he prevailed in the wrestling match for a blessing. And God makes that metaphor that Israel's the one that struggles with the trials that come their way and prevail. And that's later interpreted as the entire Christian message, is that we are Israel, that there are trials that come our way, but since we are through Christ, we end up prevailing over them for blessing in the end. The promised land, Israel, it becomes the metaphor of heaven. The wandering in the desert refers to our spiritual struggles and our trials before we achieve the promised land. This is clear that not, it says numerous times in the New Testament, not the physical seed of Abraham or Jacob is Israel, but Christians. So I did want to make that clear. And yeah, what do you think about that, Tech Boy?
Right, so that is what we call replacement theology. I just put you on the big screen so you could, talk without being interrupted. To our, I guess our fans who are going to watch this in the replay. So that is what replacement theology is. I think that's a pretty good description of it.
Okay, and yeah, I'll let you have the last word. I like to do that, but I'm going to lay down first the second to last word. What I got from this debate, I'm going to be, a little sarcastic, and I'm going to, but so I get that you support Israel due to this verse, kind of, but more due to technology and military sharing. You think that outweighs the costs of all the wars that we've been in and all the debt. You think that we are better off than we were before 1945, when we had self sufficiency, when we weren't involved in foreign conflicts, when we had a strong culture, because we have better technology and higher GDP. And I take that you think that the Muslims, we should be at war with them, because even though there was no uh, other signs that they were enemies with us before we supported Israel, we didn't like them, but we were peaceful, that they would eventually, over years start hating us and then fly a plane into our buildings. And I disagreed with that. I said we could cross that bridge when we came to it, but you said it was better to, because hypothetically they were going to be our enemies, that we should of attack them right away. I think that your arguments were based on a lot of hypotheticals. I think it was like, we need to do this in case of this, and I believe that the United States should only look out for the core interests of its own citizens. And I defended the point that even in the hypothetical that all the nations of the world come against us, which I doubt would happen, that we could defend ourselves. But um, that's all I'll say. I think I made a pretty solid point. I think you brought up some good points too. We'll let the we'll do a poll, let the audience decide. But I'll let you have the last word. Go ahead.
I mean, these polls, I could talk for an hour long on foreign policy, and I would lose that poll. It's I did a poll online once, and 50% of people think I'm going to hell, and they're my own fans. So I'm
I
not
don't
really
think
sure
so.
that these polls work in my favor anytime I run a poll. In any case, I do think that your belief makes sense because of the way that the world works, because we've been running the world of America as being the global superpower, and we're relatively safe on the homeland right now. You think that, oh well, if we were to retreat from the homeland, sorry, not retreat from the homeland, retreat from the world, everything go well as well. And because I have to work in these hypotheticals, because well, we don't really have any historical precedent for retreating from the world, unless we go all the way back until like 1900s, where the world is obviously a different place from back then. And I think that that's just what the core disagreement is, where you're debating on, well, if we did this, this might happen, and I'm debating on hypotheticals where things might happen as well. So it's basically a battle between the hypotheticals, and I think that we would just have to have a very careful study of history and geopolitics, which is just, it's very complicated. So that's why good arguments can be made on both sides. And I think that, hopefully that truth will prevail, and that we can come together and, have some sort of agreement, someday. It's not just, I don't want people to get the impression that I you know, love all these other random countries, and I stopped talking about Israel like months ago because like no one cares about it, and it's not good. Okay, if I bring it up, then I get dragged in the comment section. So I only care about what happens to the United States of America. It's just that I believe that what happens in the world affects the United States of America. If there was a world that I truly believe that we could stop focusing on what happens in the other countries in desert New Jersey, then absolutely, absolutely, I would stop caring one iota about them. But I don't believe that world exists, so I have to be, honest with my quote unquote fans and tell them what I believe.
All right, thank you. I had a great time, great discussion. I think you brought up good points, and I won't argue anything of that because that was your closing statement. And yeah, thank you so much, Tech Boy.
Thanks for coming on.
Yeah, for sure.